France's Emmanuel Macron is wrapping up his two-day state visit to the country. The French president and his Nigerian counterpart, Muhamadu Buhari, have signed a $475 million agreement for the implementation of different projects in Lagos, Kano and Ogun States. Well, let's head to Lagos now, where Deji Badmus joins us live with the latest on this visit. Deji, as always, welcome to the show. Now, of course, we've seen Macron's visit has been quite interesting so far, with a focus not just on security and the economy, but also the cultural aspect. So, Deji, it is seen as an attempt by Macron to forge closer ties with English-speaking Africa. So what exactly have been the key takeaways so far?
Well, Uche, what I would say are the key takeaways for me is the fact that it's quite clear that President Macron values Nigeria, considers Nigeria as a very, very strategic country on the continent. I mean, we're talking about the most populous black nation on earth, and you know, the largest country in terms of GDP now on the continent. So apart from security, the issue of security, which of course has been dominating this visit, we've also seen that economy is part of it. For instance, we know that he's supposed to meet with a group of business people in Lagos later tomorrow, and he's come along with some French investors now who are supposed to be meeting with these Nigerian businessmen now, and there's a possibility that a number of deals will be struck. As you've been reporting there also, we've seen the signing of an agreement now for those projects in Lagos, Ogun and Kano states, and of course involving French firms. So that the economy is another big takeaway. On the culture side, no question at all that Nigeria has always had a very strong cultural relationship with France, even though France is actually not Nigeria's colonial master. France didn't colonize Nigeria now, but fact is that Nigeria has this close affinity now in terms of culture with France, and what we can see from this trip is that well, the French government is trying to boost that cultural relationship now, and trying to you know, look for a possibility of exploring and exploiting the massive film industry in this country. And it's part of the reasons why the president of that country now actually met with some key stakeholders in the industry at the African Shrine last night. So these are basically the key takeaways, and there's no question at all that the visit is quite strategic and very important for a country like Nigeria. Of course, no doubt that business deals will be struck, and let's wait and see what happens in terms of the trade relations now between both countries, which of course you know is very low, but the hope is that after this visit it will go up.
Well, let's delve a bit further into that, Deji. Of course, the talks seem to focus mainly on intensifying security, but Nigeria is also France's biggest trading partner in sub-Saharan Africa. As you mentioned, almost $500 million worth of agreements signed today. What were the discussions, Deji, around strengthening economic ties moving forward?
Well, in terms of the economy, I mean, you've just reported about, you've reported over the $475 million deal that was signed between Nigeria and the French government. Of course, we would see projects, for instance, in Lagos State, which that, of course, having to do with a transportation project where, well, they say bus corridors, they call them priority bus corridors now, will be erected. And we would also see afforestation projects in Ogun State, and then there's this water project in Kano State. Now, all of these projects put together, the expectation is that they will generate, well, somewhere around 150,000 jobs. That's the estimate. In terms of trade relations, it's still not as high. The last time I checked, the trade relations, I mean, I'm talking about bilateral trade now between Nigeria and France is at 2017 stood at slightly over 350 million euros. No question at all that that would need to go up. And the bulk of what Nigeria, billion euros I should say, and the bulk of what Nigeria actually export to France is oil. So we expect that Nigeria would be using this visit now to try and convince the French government to allow its non-oil products to come into that country, especially now that Nigeria is diversifying its economy away from oil and looking at the non-oil sector. And we just wait and see how the whole thing pans out. It's a good thing that we're having foreign French investments coming in now, and that the French government is beginning to show interest, strong interest in Nigeria. Of course, France has got a lot of investment in this country, but it's nothing compared to what, for instance, Nigeria has with a country like China and right. Some other countries as well. So no doubt Nigeria would want to see that trade relations now seriously get a serious boost, I should say. At least let's begin to see some serious figures now come up after this visit.
Well, Deji also mentioned a French-Nigerian economic forum coming up tomorrow. We know Macron will be meeting with business leaders as well as young entrepreneurs in the country. What exactly will be the focus there? Give us some insight into that.
I didn't get that, sorry. You're breaking up.
Well, you mentioned, Deji, a Nigeria-French economic forum happening tomorrow. Macron will be meeting with business leaders. Give us some insight into what are the expectations for that event.
Well, it's pretty simple. I mean, it's just what you would normally have when a president visits. No doubt the president would have come with a number of French investors who will be looking at opportunities in this economy. So what we expect is that it's going to be, apart from the talks that will go on there, it's going to be a networking meeting, if you like, where the French investors now would be networking with their Nigerian counterparts to see how they can establish some business relations, strike some deals, and what have you. Of course, we do not expect that documents will be exchanging hands or any documents will be signed, but this no doubt would be a preliminary, if you like, to something bigger that is expected to come. So that is the kind of meeting we expect to see when the president and, of course, the delegation of French businessmen that he's come with sits down now with their Nigerian counterparts in Lagos. And it's no surprise at all that it's happening in Lagos. Lagos is the commercial capital of Nigeria. Lagos is where the big businesses of this country are and Lagos is just key. So no surprise at all that this meeting is taking place in Lagos and not the political capital, Abuja, Uche.
Well, many thanks for that update. Of course, Deji Badmus joining us there in Lagos. Well,